It's November the 3rd and it's about 5 o'clock. I'm being tutted at by the robins. These are the sprouts, following advice from people. I've been removing the yellows. I've got some jobs to do there on the yellows on the sprouts. Got a few of them. It's my first set that I've grown on this particular plot. On the other one, last year I had some. These look like they're doing okay. And there's other greens I've got here. This one's growing quite tall. And a very small collie there, but that's ready to be taken today. And I've got these as seedlings, a different variety of kohlrabi than the other ones I normally have. Still got the delight of these ones, so there's a few to be picked. And today, been boiling and pickling a beetroot as well. The beetroot have done, but these kohlrabi should see me through the winter. Every night I've enjoyed a nice cup of chamomile. I just dry the flowers and pick some. I have to pick some today as well. Still waiting to see what magic this plant does. It's vervain. Apparently the druids used to plant it around their altars and standing stones, etc. You know what they got up to. This damson's grown from a seed when I used to visit my parents, and they had a damson tree grown on a lane up near them, and I basically got loads of damson stones. I froze them, and then you supposedly slightly blanch the seeds to shock them, planted them in pots, and this is one of the surviving ones. It's been here about 2 years now. This is lavage herb, which I got. Wasn't doing well in the garden, so and it's done better. This plant, believe it or not, was dying in compost. Marjoram, it's French marjoram, and they were on a sale in the garden centre. Somehow in these soils, this clay soil, which a lot of things don't grow well, but the herbs, like these, are absolutely. This has come back from the dead. I'm not joking. It's been a cracking year for lavender down here. Really have enjoyed it, and we've got some drying in the kitchen for making cake, etc. Still got some of these here, the passiflora flowers. I tried drying some of the leaf. I looked into it, and it said stalks and leaf, and I dried them because apparently that's supposed to make a calming drink, but I don't think it agreed with me. So I think I'd rather stick to ones that have been prepared by other people. However, I didn't have any problem with the chamomile. Other marjoram plants grow well here as well. This one's in flower. Here's a little chap who's been tutting at me. You should be able to see him. Hide in there. Ooh, he's dropped down a bit to another branch. Well, my chicory plant did take again, so some seeds have sprouted up. And when it stops flowering, I'm going to be digging up 1 or 2 of these ones and following a little recipe. It's apparently supposed to dry it in the oven and a bit of chicory root and see what I can make from that. The rosemary seems to have done very well in a number of positions. I did plant it from the first plot I had, and it's taking very well here. Got this nice purple cabbage from a garden centre in Lincolnshire, and the same with these giant cabbages as well. I've had 1 or 2 that have been good to eat. And this herb seems to have really taken next to my strawberry beds. So the strawberries, well, I've just been sort of cutting along the runners and propagating them at the moment. And the last of the apples this year. So these ones are just oranging off. So I've been very pleased. My favourite's been the Spartans, I have to say, for an eating apple. Really had a lovely monster beetroot, and there's 1 or 2 left here. Some of them were planted a bit later, so we'll have to wait for these 2, but certainly got a couple left here for later on in the season. It's a little bit exciting. I've just found my first goji berry ever, and we've nursed about 3 of these plants, propagated it all over. It's been in flower, and it's sort of been attacked by a type of mildew thing. So I mean, I've sprayed it with like sort of skim milk. So I don't use, proprietary chemicals, using sort of whatever can. But I've now got my first goji berry, so yippee for that. Green manure, which is this bed here, which is mustard, and I've got to make sure it's dug in before it goes to seed. Basically, that's the instructions. And next to that, I've got a nice eucalyptus. I picked this one because it was the most aromatic one in the garden centre on special, and it's done very well here, considering it's come all the way from Australia, presumably. At the back of that, there's some red berries there. I have got them for the birds to enjoy, next to the tayberry. Just about done with the raspberries, all cut down. I've got the summer varieties here, so it's a little bit harder for pruning than the autumn variety, so I'm told. This plant from America here, got this on special from the garden centre, apparently has edible berries as well. So Oregon or grape or something I think it's called, so I have to see how that gets on. Went for a walk on the river, across the river from where I live, in a place called Radcliffe, and a lot of people have these in the gardens, really high, beautiful gardens overlooking the River Trent. Cornice or something they're called, and I just love their red stems. They come in slightly different colours as well. Mine are just changing colour at the moment, so I'm waiting to see for that winter stem colour to see if I get it. And this is one of those plants that has those little white berries that I often used to see in parks. I love them. They either come in pinks or whites, and it's just had a couple of berries on, first year in. This rhubarb here is red champagne. I've enjoyed it this year. So basically this year I'm thinking about not doing much in the way of digging and trying a new technique on this soil, because digging in this clay soil, it compacts and dries, and so I'm looking into a new technique of putting compost layer on the top, a well broken down compost layer, and just skimming off the weeds, see how I get on. Although the neighbours are very successful with horse manure, I'm going to see how and try a different technique, because when I put guinea pig waste in, it just didn't break down. In fact, the onions have been very poor this year because of that. I didn't plant any potatoes this year because it didn't do well in the soil, but the onions have been dreadful, but only because I put compost, well, it wasn't compost, guinea pig waste in with sawdust, so we'll see how I get on. Planted from seed, the Swiss chard has survived the rigours of the legions of whitefly, or as I call them, delta wings, that come and descend like some sort of biblical attack on your plants here. Found this Jonagold apple. It was at Asda. They were knocking them out for about £4.50. A lot of them, unfortunately, being the autumn, had been probably left over from the summer, and they didn't look alive, but this one was definitely alive. And I found it can be pollinated by this one, which is a Red Discovery, and then next up the Bramley. This year only the Bramley gave me apples, had nothing on the Red Discovery. Answers on a postcard please on that one. This is what my late planted drumheads from seed, and tend to be quite disease resistant, I think. I mean, they're just being attacked a little bit by legions of slugs, but nothing that the frogs can't handle. And these are winter cabbages interspersed with a few rogue kohlrabi, which are not quite ready. These were planted from seed quite late on, so these will be a late crop, and the lovely whitefly is still about. And again, we've got some more here. These are what survived, and then these have gone to seed now. This row here, which is pak choy, and then some of the drumheads here, which has been netted. I didn't think these were going to make it in the beginning, but I just persisted with them. I kept, killing the weeds, trying to find new ways of getting rid of the pests. I even put rhubarb leaves around them because I realised the slugs don't like rhubarb leaves. And I tried mint. I didn't use any pesticide spray on them at all, and it seemed to work. Most of them survived, although there was a drought couple of weeks where I had to come every day to water them. Here we have some white onions that I put in, again because there was so much, the wrong type of fertiliser in the soil. they've been quite stunted, so I'm just leaving them to grow. So basically my onions are kind of like 4 or 5 months behind because of what I put in the soil. Even though it's November, I've still got some edible tayberries to eat. I had some when I came down last time as well, so November and tayberries are still cropping. On my wild spot, which is the back of the plot, where I found this blackcurrant growing, which was being strangled, this may well, people tell me, be a plant that, from original parentage from the Second World War, grown obviously for the vitamin C content. I've been spreading my own blackcurrant cuttings straight into the clay soil. Some of them will take. I've put about 50 or 60 of these little cuttings all over around the back here, because they seem to be able to survive you know, bindweed attacks and various pests. And I've also put some little saplings from home. I've got a holly there, and also a Kentish cob, but I'm going to have to put in the other plant to pollinate as well, which is another cob nut plant, the purple variety, which that apparently cross-pollinates this one, because I've not had any cob nuts on this one, and I think as soon as I do, the squirrels will probably find it, but if you're quick, you can get your cob nuts while you can. Here in Nottinghamshire we have what for me, from what I've seen in England, one of the most vicious blackberry bushes I've ever seen. I don't know what genus it is, but this gives some of the most succulent, beautiful blackberries. It's basically, you can get ripped to shreds, but it's well worth it collecting the blackberries, and people do, and people, as you can see, the thorns on this, it's like they really are vicious. But the blackberries that you get from this variety, which is close to the River Trent, it's well worth all the pain and aggro and slashes that you get just to get the fruit. Really wasn't sure what to do with the compost from this plot too, which was used as a dump, or mizzen as they called it, from the GNWR railway, and basically that the big steam engines and the locos were serviced and held in a huge marshalling yard not far from here, and this was used as their dump originally before it became the allotments in the early 1920s. And I found all sorts of pot and china and the like from you know, basically the dumps of privies, etc., and chamber pots, and I'm not joking, all sorts of things of that nature. And basically I cut, when I've originally got the plot, dug everything up down to a depth of 3 or 4 feet to get all the weeds out and all the old potatoes and the mould out from rotted crops, and put it in this pile. But I'm upset if I dig into it, because you start killing worms. So I really would like some advice, what people would advise, because this has now been rotting down for its 2nd year, this pile. But I'm sort of loath to dig into it, because when I do, you just end up killing worms. So it'd be nice to think, what would other people advise? Of course, autumn down here is the time when, well, it's end of October, when they're allowed to have the fires till March. This one here looks nice and toasty. You could get yourself a couple of potatoes, couldn't you, wrapped in foil? It's a nice, we could grill some sausages on that, couldn't you? Ooh, it's making me really hungry, that. Nice hot sausages, some potatoes, some jackets. Ooh, could even boil your tea on that, couldn't you? Lovely. That's what allotments are all about this time of year, isn't it? Yeah, just discovered this. This was my Jonagold that I just planted next to the Red Discovery, and I found that it will be pollinated by, it says here, there we go, it says Brabants, Discovery, Fiestas, Granny Smiths, James Greaves, Katia and Spartan, and the Bramley's next to it, but hopefully if I get my £4.50 worth, it will end up looking like that. An attractive dessert apple, perfect for eating fresh, for juicing and for a range of tasty recipes. Very nice. The beetroot that was prepared today, some of it's gone into the stew for tonight, and the rest of it is been made into a quick beetroot which has been pickled. Now that was a very large beetroot that I did today. This will take a week starting from today's date, 3rd of November, and the beetroot, I sliced it up with a very large meat carving knife into large chunks in the oven, and it was at on 200 degrees centigrade for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Covered, put some foil on it, drizzled a load of olive oil over it, and once it is cooked, then you can peel off any of the remaining skin from the beetroot, wait for it to cool, cut it into smaller chunks, and you could then, on this, inside this beetroot, it's basically using the pickling vinegar here, Sarson's pickling vinegar. You can add some dill, you know, basic herbs, and you can add some peppercorns to that, and just basically, you know, run your vinegar over it, and that's your peppercorns there, and some salt as well, and that's your beetroot done. It was a monster beetroot, it's the biggest one I've ever seen from my particular plot anyway, and I've still got some more left. So that was the beetroot done and dusted. Normally I would have just boiled the beetroot up, but it was so big I had to chop it into chunks and then chop it again. So it's been quite a challenge getting this beetroot sorted, but now that it's been gently roasted, it's kept much more of the colour. So hopefully we'll be enjoying that for weeks to come, and there's some more still down. And just going to gently simmer this. These are some of the greens I got from a Lincolnshire garden centre, just outside Lincoln actually. They were selling sets of, I think you've got a set of 12 seedlings. They didn't all take on the glaciers that I, you know, work on the allotment, but these are basically tops I've taken off, basically leaves I've taken off some of the very sort of open looking sort of cabbage plant. But there were lots of different varieties in. I've just sort of got one of each really to see how they went.